Timeless life philosophies.
What if I told you that someone knew the secret to escaping the very restrictions of time and space? Sounds wild, right? Well, buckle up, because we're about to explore the life and discoveries of Robert Monroe, a man who not only asked these questions, but actually found some pretty mind-blowing answers. But let's start with a simple question. What if time and space are just illusions? What if, at a fundamental level, we can step outside of them? Yeah, sounds like science fiction, but keep listening. Who was Robert Monroe? Robert Monroe wasn't someone you'd expect to pioneer the exploration of altered states of consciousness. This guy was a classic, no-nonsense businessman from Indiana, a radio broadcasting executive who dealt with facts, figures, and the kind of practical stuff that most of us do every day. Imagine a corporate suit, someone steeped in logic who might have spent more time thinking about profit margins and ratings than about the mysteries of the universe. But life has a funny way of flipping the script, right? At the age of 43, Monroe had a series of experiences that changed his life forever. One evening in 1958, he felt an overwhelming vibration deep within his chest, a strange, electric sensation that he couldn't explain. It wasn't just a mild tingle. It was intense, so much so that he had to lie down. But things only got weirder from there. As he lay down, Monroe suddenly found himself floating outside of his body, looking down at his physical self. Panic hit him like a tidal wave. He thought he had died. But almost as quickly as it started, he snapped back into his body. Now you or I might have dismissed this as a dream or a fluke, but Monroe, he couldn't let it go. This wasn't just a one-time event. It kept happening. He found himself floating around the room, effortlessly detached from his body. He consulted doctors, thinking maybe he had some strange health condition, but they assured him he was in perfect health. So Monroe, being the curious and driven person that he was, decided to explore this phenomenon. He left his stable, lucrative job in radio and threw himself into the study of consciousness, kicking off a journey that would eventually reshape how we think about reality itself. Out-of-body experiences, a gateway to the unknown. Monroe didn't just brush off his out-of-body experiences as some weird anomaly. Instead, he dug deep, determined to understand what was happening to him. And what he found was astonishing. These experiences weren't just personal or subjective. They were a gateway to something much bigger. He coined the term out-of-body experience, OBE, to describe the sensation of his consciousness leaving his physical body. But here's the kicker. Monroe believed that anyone could learn how to have these experiences. He wasn't just interested in explaining them, he wanted to make them accessible. What's truly fascinating is how Monroe approached these experiences. He didn't treat them as some kind of mystical, otherworldly phenomena. Instead, he tried to break them down scientifically, methodically. He treated them like a problem that needed solving. And so, over the next several decades, Monroe developed techniques to induce and control OBs. His goal? To explore the boundaries of human consciousness and discover how far it could go. Monroe believed that these out-of-body journeys were more than just a way to explore the physical world from a different angle. He felt that they could unlock access to other dimensions, alternate realities, and even timelines. Essentially, OBs could offer a way to transcend the very fabric of time and space. But how do you do that? Monroe didn't rely on esoteric, hard-to-grasp spiritual practices. Instead, he developed a practical system. He began experimenting with sound frequencies and discovered that specific audio patterns, what we now call binaural beats, could help synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the brain. This process, which he named Hemisync, became the cornerstone of his work. By aligning the brain's hemispheres, Monroe believed you could achieve a heightened state of awareness and even trigger out-of-body experiences. How does Hemisync work? So, how exactly does Hemisync work? Imagine it like tuning your mind into a frequency it doesn't normally operate on. Normally, our brain is like a two-engine plane, with each hemisphere acting as its own pilot. Sometimes they're in sync, But most of the time, one side is doing its own thing. What Monroe discovered is that by using specific sound frequencies called binaural beats, you can get these two engines to work in perfect harmony. Let's break it down. Binaural beats are essentially two different tones, played in each ear, that create a third tone within your brain. This tone isn't a sound you consciously hear. Instead, it's a frequency that your brainwaves naturally start to follow. It's like tricking your brain into reaching a certain state of consciousness that's usually reserved for deep meditation or sleep, without actually having to meditate for hours on end. It's a shortcut to accessing altered states of consciousness. Hemisync technology uses these audio frequencies to synchronize the brain's left and right hemispheres, creating a state of deep relaxation and heightened awareness. Think of your brain like a finely tuned musical instrument. When it's in harmony, it can play the most beautiful symphony, and in Monroe's case, that symphony involves stepping outside of the normal bounds of time and space. What's even more exciting is that Monroe didn't just rely on personal anecdotes to back up his discoveries. He worked with clinical neurologists who tested participants using EEG scans, those brainwave reading devices that you've probably seen in movies or on TV. The results were clear. When using Hemisync, the brain's hemispheres showed synchronized activity. And people weren't just experiencing relaxation, they were having profound, out-of-body experiences. They reported drifting outside their bodies, exploring distant locations, and even peeking into alternate realities. Sound far-fetched. Well, the science was there to support it. The science behind it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, so this sounds cool, but is there any real science behind it? The answer is yes, and Monroe made sure of that. He wasn't content with just having these experiences himself. He wanted to prove that there was something tangible, measurable, and replicable going on. Let's get a little technical for a second. When participants used Hemisync technology, clinical studies showed that their brainwaves actually changed. Researchers used EEG electroencephalograms, the machines that measure electrical activity in your brain, to track what was happening. And what they found was amazing. The brain's hemispheres were in perfect sync, matching in both amplitude and frequency. This level of synchronization is rare in everyday life. Most of the time, our brain is scattered, multitasking, jumping from thought to thought. But with Hemisync, the brain achieves a state of coherence, where both sides are working together seamlessly. This isn't just about feeling relaxed or meditative. It's about altering your entire perception of reality. Participants reported all kinds of unusual experiences, seeing places they had never been, glimpsing moments in time that hadn't yet occurred, and even exploring other dimensions. And this wasn't just happening in some hazy, dreamlike state. They were conscious, aware, and in control of their journey. The you. Government even got interested. That's right, the CIA became so intrigued by Monroe's work that they invited him to participate in a top-secret project called the Gateway Process. This project was designed to explore how Monroe's techniques could be used to train soldiers in remote viewing, essentially, the ability to see distant or hidden places without physically being there. Think of it like psychic spying, except rooted in actual, measurable changes in brain activity. The Gateway Experience. So, what exactly was the Gateway Process? Picture this. It's the late 1970s and the U. Government is in the middle of the Cold War. They're looking for any possible advantage they can get over the Soviet Union, and Monroe's techniques for expanding consciousness catch their attention. This isn't some sci-fi movie plot. This is documented real-life stuff. The CIA wanted to see if Monroe's Hemisync technology could be used to help soldiers tap into higher levels of awareness, maybe even to remotely view hidden locations or events happening on the other side of the world. Monroe agreed to work with them, and what followed was a deep dive into the potential of human consciousness. The project was named the Gateway Process, and the goal was to use Hemisync to help individuals achieve out-of-body experiences, access different timelines, and explore alternate realities Sounds like something straight out of Stranger Things, right? But this wasn't just a military experiment. Monroe believed that the techniques developed through the gateway process could be applied to anyone, not just soldiers or spies. In fact, many of the techniques he developed are still in use today through the Monroe Institute. These methods allow everyday people like you and me to explore altered states of consciousness, gain insights into our lives, and maybe even step outside the boundaries of time and space. What's fascinating is how practical the gateway process was. It wasn't about magic or mysticism. It was about using science, specifically sound frequencies and brain synchronization, to achieve something truly extraordinary. And while the military was interested in these techniques for strategic reasons, Monroe's goal was always about personal exploration. He wanted to give people the tools to tap into higher states of consciousness, not just for remote viewing, but for personal growth, self-awareness, and yes, cosmic travel. Escaping time and space. So, how do we escape time and space? What does that even mean? Let's break it down. Imagine time as a river. Most of us are like swimmers in that river, carried along by the current, only able to see what's immediately around us. We're stuck in the flow of time. Our past, present, and future all seem like separate, distinct events. But what if you could step out of the river? What if you could stand on the shore and see the whole thing at once? Past, present, and future all laid out before you. That's essentially what Monroe was talking about. Through his out-of-body experiences and the techniques he developed, Monroe believed it was possible to step outside the normal flow of time and space. He called this cosmic travel the ability to move beyond our physical bodies and explore different dimensions of reality. And while that might sound far-fetched, Monroe's research showed that it wasn't just possible for a select few. It could be something anyone could learn to do with the right training and tools. By synchronizing the brain's hemispheres, Monroe believed that we could tap into a higher state of consciousness, one that transcends the limitations of the physical world. In this state, we're no longer bound by the same rules of time and space. We can explore the universe from a new perspective, one where time isn't linear, where we can see past, present, and future all at once. But this isn't just about metaphysical exploration. Escaping the confines of time and space can also be a powerful tool for personal growth. Imagine being able to see your life from a bird's eye view, gaining clarity on your decisions, your challenges, and your purpose. That's the true power of Monroe's work. It's not just about exploring the universe, it's about expanding your own consciousness and gaining a deeper understanding of yourself. How can you do it? I know what you're thinking. That sounds amazing, but how can I do this? The good news is, you don't need to spend decades meditating on a mountain to experience this. With the right tools and techniques, you can start exploring altered states of consciousness from the comfort of your own home. Monroe developed a series of guided meditations and audio programs that use Hemisync technology to help people achieve these states. The key is practice. Just like any skill, it takes time and dedication. You're essentially retraining your mind to think beyond its normal parameters, allowing you to tap into something far greater. But once you start to get the hang of it, the possibilities are endless. Imagine being able to experience your life from a higher perspective, to step outside of time and space and see things with fresh eyes. Whether it's gaining clarity on a tough decision, exploring your past lives, yes, Monroe believed in that too, or even just getting a break from the stresses of everyday life, these techniques can open up a whole new world for you. So there you have it, the fascinating story of Robert Monroe and his journey to unlocking the secrets of time, space, and consciousness. His work offers us a glimpse into the true potential of human awareness and the possibility that we're not as limited as we once thought. Monroe's life was dedicated to exploring the edges of reality, and thanks to his discoveries, we too can begin to push the boundaries of what's possible. What do you think? Could it really be that we're capable of transcending time and space? Have you ever had an experience that made you question reality? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to dive deeper into Monroe's work, I'll leave some resources for you in the description. Until next time, keep exploring, and remember, the only limits are the ones we place on ourselves. Time and space? They're just the beginning.